I'm Tia. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you the books that I read during the month of February. In February, I read 11 manga and graphic novels and 4 novels. So I think that this should probably be a pretty quick wrap up. So let's just jump into it. So I have everything stacked up over here and I'm just going to share them in no particular order. The first one is Faded Blades by Alona Andrews. This is a book that I buddy read with my friend Amy over at Zoe Beck. We have been reading all of Alona Andrews' books together over the last couple of years, and this is the very last one that we needed to read together. So this is part of the Kinsman series, and it is a sci-fi fantasy type series. So it's set in a different world than ours, but it's following humans who have been altered and given different special abilities. Like years and years and years ago, the first ones, I think they're called Sekar. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but they were given special abilities, and then as they had children, those abilities were like passed down, and now they have stopped giving those abilities out to people. And these, I think it's like, I'm not sure how many families there are that still have those abilities, but they are called kinsmen, and they basically run most of the world. And in this particular story in the series, we are following these two people who are like the heads of their families, and both of their respective spouses have run off together and stolen some very important information that both of the families want to have about some special technology. It's going to be really detrimental to them if their spouses are able to get away with this, and so they have to team up together and track their spouses down. So this is a pretty short book. I don't know, it's 210 pages, so I don't know if that qualifies as a novella or a novel. I don't really know where the cutoff is, but it's very action-packed because of how short it is. So everything happens pretty quickly, including the relationship between these two, which I didn't enjoy that much because it was so short. I felt like everything was rushed. Not that I didn't enjoy the book or the relationship, I just didn't enjoy how rushed everything was, if that makes sense. So I really like this world, and I think that Alona Andrews does a great job of world building. And I also think that they do good characters, but here I just think they didn't give themselves enough pages to really flesh out the relationship between these two. So I wasn't like majorly invested in them, but still, I still gave this 3 stars. Mediocre from Alona Andrews is still pretty good because they're just really great at world building and doing character relationships and stuff like that. So yeah, not one of their best, but I think this is my least favorite series of theirs, so I'm glad we saved it till the end. But still a good book, and I would recommend checking out Alona Andrews, just maybe not starting with the Kinsman series. But if you read all their other stuff, then definitely pick this up if you're a completionist like me. Okay, and then next I have this huge stack of manga that I read. The first one is Osin Noo Volume 5. This is by Aki Akasaka and Mingo Yokoyari. And this one is a series that I got into while I was taking a break from filming last year. But oh, this one's kind of hard to explain. So I started reading this because it was recommended by one of my favorite K-pop stars, and I absolutely loved the first volume. It follows this J-pop star who has gotten pregnant, which is like obviously very frowned upon, and she's trying to hide it from all of her fans. And she goes and kind of gets help from someone in secret, and oh gosh, if you want to read this, I totally don't want to give anything away, but yeah, I really don't know what to say because I had no idea going into this what it was going to be about. And the first volume like completely floored me. I was so invested in the first volume. I will say that after that one, that things kind of took a different turn, and we sort of are in the entertainment industry in Japan in a whole bunch of different areas besides just following the pop star situation. We also see like movies and TV shows, and this particular one is following more about behind the scenes of like manga, and then like manga being turned into a play or a TV show or an anime or something like that, like what all it goes into that. So it's very, very interesting if you are into those type of things. If you are not, then I probably wouldn't recommend this one to you. But if you were interested in learning more about behind the scenes in the entertainment industry in Japan, then yes, definitely check this one out. And then I read a whole bunch of Witch Hat Atelier volumes during the month of February. The first ones that I have here to show you are actually a spin-off of Witch Hat Atelier, and these are Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen Volume 1 and 2. And these are sort of, so obviously they're following all the same characters. We are in the atelier with all of our favorite characters, and it's just sort of them cooking, basically. I don't know how to explain it, like taking breaks here and there and seeing them come up with different recipes and enjoying food together. And it is super duper cozy. Like, this might be the coziest manga that I've ever read. I'm pretty sure it is. It's just absolutely cozy. And I wouldn't recommend this, I don't think, unless you have been reading Witch Hat Atelier and you already are invested in those characters and you already like them. Otherwise, I don't think that you would probably really be interested in these. I don't know, you might if you're into like cooking manga, which, is a genre that I think people are interested in. Then you might want to just check these out. But otherwise, I would just recommend them to people who are already into Witch Hat Atelier. But yeah, super duper cozy. I don't know, I might actually have started to like these more than Witch Hat. I'm not sure. And then I read 7 volumes of Witch Hat Atelier this month, which is a ton. So I was trying to get caught up on all of the ones that are currently out in English. So I read a lot. I got 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, and 11. So these are kind of hard to tell you the differences between the volumes at this particular stage, especially since I read them all so close together. They're starting to, they all blend together in my mind at this point. But essentially, Witch Hat Atelier is following this young girl who has always been interested in magic and wanting to know more about witches. Her name is Coco, and in the first volume, she comes across some magic, and through different circumstances, she ends up being an apprentice at this atelier under, let's see, is there a picture of her? Oh yeah, of course, under Master Queefrey. So that's him right here. Coco ends up being an apprentice under Queefrey, and all of the volumes follow her adventures, and they are battling, an overarching bad group of people throughout the whole entire series. And I really enjoyed volumes 1 through maybe 8 or 9, I would say. And not that I didn't enjoy the last couple, it's just that I feel like at this point, by the time I got to 10 and 11, I feel like they are stretching stuff out really, really unnecessarily. Once we start to get to 11 and 12, I start to hope that, we're going to see some sort of end in sight for a series of manga, because I don't want to be tied to a series that's going to be like 30 or 40 volumes. That's just too much for me at this stage of life, honestly. I mean, if I was a child or a teen, then I could see myself in being invested in something that long. But at this point, I really can't see myself doing that. And I don't really know what to do because, like I said, 11, I just read 11, and there's absolutely no way that this is about to wrap up anytime soon. So I may be taking a break from this series for a while till I see more about how long it's going to be. Yeah, but anyway, These have definitely been well loved at our house. You know, we own 1 through 11 plus the Witch Hat Kitchen ones, and I have read them all, and then all 3 of my kids have read them all. They have also, some of them have read them multiple times, so it's not like I've just bought all of these and then they've just been read once. So yeah, they're definitely being well loved and getting our money's worth out of them, which is great. But I just think I might take a break for a little while until I figure out how long the series is going to be. And then the other graphic novel that I read this month was The Best We Could Do by Tai Bui. This one is an immigration story about a family who immigrated from Vietnam right after the Vietnam War. And this one I actually picked up for the Buzzwordathon because in February we were supposed to read a book with a positive word in the title, and I think that best is a positive word. So, like I said, this is a graphic novel, and the art is done in all sepia tones, which is really neat. I thought that was a good way of doing the story. And it is a nonfiction memoir graphic novel. So this author, she decided that she wanted to learn more about her family's history. And so she spent a great bit of time researching her family's history and researching everything that happened in Vietnam around, you know, the events of her family leaving and her parents and grandparents growing up. Actually, not her grandparents growing up, but, you know, her grandparents were in the picture. So she talked, you know, interviewed her mom and her dad, and she listened to them tell stories to other family members and put everything together. And she actually decided that she wanted to do it in graphic novel format, but she didn't even know how to do that. So she spent a long time, like, you know, learning to draw and learning to build a graphic novel story. So this was a very long, you know, labor of love on her part, which I very, very greatly admire. And I also think that she had a lot to say about family relationships and looking back at your parents and the things that they have done and seeing them for who they are rather than just, you know, always seeing them for who you want them to be or who you thought they were when you were growing up, or just seeing them as your parent, if that makes sense. So I think as children, we do that a lot. And as a parent, you know, yes, we want our kids to rely on us and believe in us and all of that stuff, but we are more than just parents. You know, we are people as well, and so are our parents. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And there was a lot of quotable moments, I think, as she sort of came to this realization that, you know, her parents have this huge history that didn't involve her. And to also sort of make that shift in her mind from being a child and also like being their child, but also being an adult, which I think is a hard thing as well. I mean, at least for me, it always has been, because I'm the youngest in my family. And it took a long time for me to feel like my family was not seeing me as a baby anymore, that they were finally seeing me as a grown-up, which I feel like probably took until I was like mid-30s, maybe 40. It was a long time. But anyway, so yeah, I enjoyed this not only for the history and the perspective and learning more about Vietnam that I didn't know before, as well as like just hearing her voice things about family dynamics that I could definitely relate to. Even though, you know, I'm not an immigrant, I think that she has a lot to say that a lot of people will relate to as well as learn something from. So the only downside to this is that I do think that the storytelling and the way that some of the panels were laid out were a bit confusing. Not necessarily only that, but just that she was trying to tell so much history that sometimes it got confusing and I didn't fully grasp everything that she was talking about. So I think this might be like a good jumping off point to learn more about Vietnam and the Vietnam War. Definitely something that could get you interested and then lead to learning more about those topics. But I highly recommend this if you haven't already read it. Then I read Everyone Here Is Lying by Sherry Lapina. This is a book that my husband got me for Valentine's Day. I think this is her newest release because it just came out last year, so it's very new, and I absolutely flew through this book. The writing style in this book was just so easy to gobble up, and I wanted to know what was going to happen all the way through the entire book. I just couldn't put it down. This is a book about this neighborhood in Stanhope and all of the people who live there, and how all of them are lying. Basically, everyone here is lying. So a lot of them have secrets, and at the beginning you're following this doctor who lives in this neighborhood with his wife and 2 children, and you immediately find out some stuff about him that he is keeping secret. And when he comes home one afternoon, he talks to his daughter, and she ends up going missing. And so the whole book, you're just trying to figure out, like, who took her, what happened to her, who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. And I literally was suspecting every single person, like every person that the police suspected, or every person that one of the other characters suspected. I was like, oh yeah, maybe it's them. Oh, is it going to be them? Maybe it's them. And I was like that the whole way through, until we find out, obviously, who it is and what happened. And I don't know. I don't always feel that way about books. So it was a lot of fun. I gave this one 4 stars. I don't think it's quite a 5-star read, because I'm not sure that it is a book that I would ever be able to reread, because I think once you know the ending that you're not going to ever forget it. So yeah. And then I think even books that I do know the ending for, I will reread them if there are characters and relationships and situations in there that I love, and that sorry, I just knocked my microphone, that I love and want to experience again, that are more like nuanced character developments, that you want to revisit. And this one, the characters were not ones that you loved and were invested in. I was more invested in the plot and, who did it and what are the reveals going to be. Maybe years from now, if I absolutely forget everything, I would reread it, because I definitely think it's a good book, a great thriller that I would recommend, but not quite a 5-star for those reasons. My favorite book of the month has got to be Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year. I had pre-ordered this one and just couldn't wait until it came out. I've mentioned before this year that I have been really into werewolves this year, and I've always been into vampires, but lately I feel like werewolves might be taking over that #1 spot of supernatural creatures that I am interested in. So when I heard that Ali was going to write a werewolf vampire arranged marriage, I couldn't wait to get my hands on this book. So yeah, when it got here, I started reading it right away. And I fell in love with these characters. So this is following a vampire named Misery Lark, whose father is a really important man in the vampire side of things. And in this world, the vampires, the werewolves, and the humans do not get along. They're always at odds with each other. They're very distrustful of each other. There has been wars and bloodshed in the past, and they have decided to make this arranged marriage between the werewolf alpha and someone in the vampire world who's like, higher up, who's important, who, like a councilman or something. So to try to arrange, like, not necessarily peace, because I wouldn't say that they're at peace, but at least, maybe that'll help them not be at war. And Misery gets chosen because her father is a councilman. And yeah, so you're following this arranged marriage. She agrees to it, not only because I think she does want to, help out the vampires, but because her best friend, who she has been living with, or not living with, she lived with when she was growing up, has gone missing, and she wants to try to find her. And she thinks that there are reasons why she thinks if she goes along with this arranged marriage that she will find some clues to what happened to her best friend. So this is a very, very, very slow burn romance. A lot of this book is building the world and the mystery behind everything, and Misery learning more about the werewolves and learning more about her alpha husband, whose name is Lo, and their relationship grows very, very, very slowly, but it was just so great to me. I just loved it so much. And I've seen other people talk about this book. I've seen people who loved it and some people who weren't that sure about it. And I think there have been comments about the spice level of this book. And I think that the reason why that is the case is because there are some things that happen in here that only happen with alpha werewolves. And so that part is obviously described, but I don't know how to explain this to you without getting too descriptive. But anyway, so I don't think that there is more spice or any more descriptive spice than any other contemporary or paranormal romance that I've read before. It's just that there are things in here that I think people maybe are not used to, and that could be a little bit off-putting. But I think that you can skip those parts if you're worried about it and you just want to, read the slow burn relationship between these two. You can certainly skip those parts because, like I said, it's slow build. They don't happen until later in the book, and they don't happen that often. That's just my opinion. I know other people have different opinions, but yeah. So if you're into paranormal romance or you want to check out more Ali Hazelwood, I would recommend this book. If paranormal romance is not something that you have ever read, or I don't know, I think this could actually be a good entry point. The more I think about it, I feel like I've heard people say who love paranormal romance that this wasn't spicy enough for them. So it's hard to know who to recommend this book to. Maybe if you were into contemporary romance and you are wanting to check out paranormal, I would recommend this. I think if you have liked her other books and you're open to werewolf vampire pairings, then I would recommend this. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I really enjoyed it, and I hope that she writes more in this world. She kind of left it open to where another character in here might be getting their own book in the future, and I certainly hope that that happens because I really liked all of the characters that were introduced here. And if you have any other recommendations for werewolf romance, then please let me know those down in the comments. Nothing too crazy, I don't want anything maybe more spicy than this, like this, I'm okay with this level. Maybe nothing higher than that, but anyway, yes, I enjoyed it. So I feel like I talked way too much. Anyway, I would love to know if you have read any of these books down in the comments and what you thought about them, or certainly let me know any other books that you read this month, ones that you think I might be interested in as well. I hope that you are all doing well and reading something great, and I will see you next time. Bye.